This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details.
Work by Kara Savage, guiding the great ship Love Covenant at FM 100.3 KFAN with Ben Gessling. I'm Paul Allen. The on-site producer and engineer is Jared Wells from the Doubletree Hotel, adjacent to KFAN at the Minnesota Football Coaches Association Clinics. And very happy now to be joined by somebody who bullies bullies. And when I read that whether it's his kids, his team, his coaching staff, or Brian Randall, we bully bullies. I can't say that I've ever heard that before, but it helped him and his team, the Richmond Randall High School football team, go 5-0 and win a 5A state championship in Texas. And Brian's here for the coaches clinics. He spoke last night, and it's an honor to meet you, man. What's going on, Ben and Paul?
First of all, I just want to say thanks. Thanks, you guys, for having us.
Sure.
It's been a great time. I'm going
to put that a little closer to you. There we go.
Yes, sir. Sorry about that. Eye-opening. First time Minnesota football clinic out here, and I think you guys are doing a great job.
What would be, as a football coach from Texas, what would be eye-opening here at a coach's clinic in Minnesota?
Well, some of the coaches here don't actually teach. They don't teach in the building, and that's the different thing. Like in Texas, you have to
be classes?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. You have to be a certified teacher. So if I'm a history teacher, then I'll be able to coach athletics. And some of the guys, I don't have athletic periods here, and that's quite odd. It's odd to hear for me, but I guess that's the norm here. So
yeah,
like we have 2 athletic periods in Texas. So you have
like PE
classes,
as it would used to be called.
Well, you still have PE.
Okay.
So I'm like, if you want to be in athletics, girls athletics, boys athletics. So on my campus, 4th period and 7th period is football. So you have like your young kids, your freshmen, or 7th period, our older kids, our JV and varsity boys come 4th period. Yes, sir.
So are you still practicing after school then too, or is it all during the
season? You practice after school.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. But because you still have limitations, we have a thing called the UIO. And they're our governing body, so you're only allowed 250 minutes in a week. Well, in order to actually go out and practice football.
Sure.
And in the meeting yesterday, because I like to ask questions, because I want to be a sponge and learn.
Yeah.
Well, they say they don't have you guys can practice as long as you want,
right?
As long as you, which is kind of wild to me.
So I mean, Texas widely has been known as the cradle of like high school football. I mean, South Florida might argue, Southern California might argue, Western Pennsylvania and Eastern Ohio, they got their offensive linemen.
Right.
But I mean, Texas high school football, Friday Night Lights, man. I mean, it's football immortality. It is. So are certain rules needed because it's so competitive at the high school level in Texas?
I think so. I think that if they were to give you all athletic periods out here, I think that it'll grow. It'll grow because obviously your boys are lifting weights. Again, you have Title IX, so it's boys and girls. So you're getting a workout, you're getting a lift, you're getting an opportunity to do so many more things. When college coaches come in, like when recruiters come, because one of my boys has 42 offers. Landon Williams, Callis, you're reading
the running back?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I read about him.
He's legit. He's a real deal.
He's a sophomore, right?
Yes,
or he was.
sophomore.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, special.
Have fun with him the next couple of years.
What's his name?
Landon Williams Callis. He's
Wow.
been touched by God. I'm telling you, the football
Amen.
guys blessed him. Chase Sims, 59. He graduated early in December. He's playing for Texas A&M. But the great part about that athletic period is that when the college recruiters come in, they can come see him then instead of trying to pull them out of class or having to go to their house or go after school and things like that. So it's a great setup.
So coaching, I mean, being involved in that at the high school level, and, we're a sophomore, so what are we, 16?
Yes, sir. Well, Landon might be 15,
15, 16
this year.
And you got 42 offers coming your way, because clearly you're different, and you're different in this state, which means, you now have things that you got to think about about keeping people grounded.
Oh, absolutely.
Those around him, well, what about me? I mean, right. I didn't get 40, you know. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it just plays into so many mental things from a coaching standpoint because these guys are still kids.
Right. Well, a lot of outside influence. And the one thing that we do a really good job at, well, one, it is Texas, and our parents, we have really good parents. I'm blessed to have a lot of good parents. So those parents aren't really pushy or anything like that. Now, some can be high maintenance, as you can imagine. Some can be high maintenance, but the majority of them are really good people. But I have an open door policy. So anything you want to talk about, my door's always open.
For the parents?
For the parents,
well,
yeah. Well, for anybody.
Is it mostly my kid ain't playing enough?
Well, you get that.
Yeah.
You get that. But I have open practices. So you want to see why your kid's not playing, we'll come out here and watch how he hides in the drills, you know. And
that's awesome.
I tell my young coaches and some of my colleagues, I say, hey, open your practice up and let them come out there and watch so they can see their kid getting run over. Like you'll get to see it, and that's why your baby's not playing.
Right.
It's not because I'm being ugly to him or mean to him, because I want to win.
That's beautiful.
We're going to put the best product out there on the field.
What gave you that idea to open up practices?
When I first became the head coach at A-Leaf Taylor 10 years ago, we just kind of want to open it up because you have a lot of parents coming and you got a lot of complaining, well, my baby's not getting enough this, and a lot of, for whatever reason.
Sure.
But if you just open it up and say, you know what, let's just be open and honest. And people, sometimes it's a tough pill to swallow, but they're going to respect it. Like, you're going to respect honesty. You have to.
Yeah.
You have to. You might not like it, but if you come out there and you watch it and you see it, then I don't get any more complaints. They get somewhere to sit down.
Well, but that's great. It potentially can be 10 of 10 great. You know more about it than me, man. I'm not here trying to be Tom Osborne or Barry Switzer or anything, but it's now things that you may be talking to parents about can be policed in the home.
Oh, absolutely.
You see what I'm saying? So because you don't, parents are like, all right, well, we got these Christian values, and we got this going on, and this going on, and then they leave the house, and everything's undone.
Right.
Well, vice versa, you're teaching things and preaching things, and if the parents see it, they can reinforce it, and that only helps the totality of the covenant, right?
Well, before the season even starts, we do home visits. We do home visits where my coaches will go in we'll use Chase Sims. My defensive line coaches, they'll go to their house and they'll sit down with their parents, and we go over their core course GPA and see where they're at and if they're eligible for a Division I scholarship, and just kind of really and truly educate the parent to where they know what to look for. And nowadays, and with NIL and how the colleges are cutting to the 105, it's getting ready to get really interesting for high school football players, because you're not going to get as many Division I scholarships. Like those Power 4 scholarships are going to get smaller and smaller for the high school kid, and they're going to suffer.
What's cutting to the 105?
Just the I don't want to get all the way into it, but the colleges, right?
Roster size.
Yeah.
I got you. Go ahead,
sir.
Ben.
When you're going through that, it's interesting to hear you talk about this, because I'm on the other side of it. I coach high school track and field around here too, and scholarships are going to change everywhere, and especially for those Olympic sports, everything's going to get cut. But it's the same issue of you're now going to have fewer high school players getting D1 scholarships, and when they're competing for spots, they're competing for guys through the transfer portal.
Right.
How has that changed your thought process when you're educating a kid on what your college options might look like?
Well, you got to work harder. Well, first of all, you got to be realistic.
Sure.
You got to be realistic. But the second thing is you've got to work harder. You got to work harder. And I mean, it's America. It's capitalist society, so that you got to work hard in order to eat, and that's what we preach that all the time. So the biggest thing is just working harder, and it's kind of sad because some of the kids that normally would get a mid-major offer or a FCS offer or something like that, they're not. They're getting the D2 offers, and then they're going on down. But after they make this cut, I feel like Division II football is getting ready to get really good.
Yeah. Brian Randall, coach of the Richmond Randall High School football team, 5A champions after going 6-0 in the great state of Texas, and they culminated it by A, pulling an upset, and B, doing so at AT&T Stadium, where the Dallas Cowboys play. Which it was where it was at AT&T, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and I mean, just big crowd, just the whole thing, right?
It's a great atmosphere.
Wow.
It's a good time.
How about the kids, man, when they roll out for the pregame, and it's like, whoa, hey, this has more than one deck, okay, so I got to get used to that. And secondly, there are a lot of people here.
Well, we took them up the night before, so they have games Thursday, Friday, Saturday, so we took them up the night before, and I cut them loose. I said, guys, I want y'all to walk this whole facility, walk around and get all the awe out. Like, just get it all out right now. So come Friday night, we're ready to play football. We're focused on football because that's what we came here to do. We came here to win a football game.
All right, well, this program, Richmond Randall High School, first and foremost, the Randall part, Brian Randall's the coach, he's with us now, was named after your father. And Brian had a quote in a story I found, quote, "My dad is all about doing for other people. Always do something for your fellow man." And we preach that, and we talk about that. That's what we were raised doing, and we pass it on to the boys, which would be the players. I'm extremely proud. I'm truly proud. Your father, Thomas, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so what led to the high school being named after your father? And I mean, what are keys as a dad to instilling this in kids at this day and age?
Well, Dad just worked hard. He's just a hard worker. He spent 21 years at the helm. He was the superintendent in that school district for 21 years, and that's kind of unheard of. I think it might be, if it's not the longest, it's the second longest tenure. I know in the state of Texas for sure. I don't know in America, but he's just a hard worker.
For a superintendent, I think would be pretty long anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. So it's those boards change, but Dad stayed the same, and he just leads by example. Leads by example and just works hard.
I was interested just reading about you a little bit this week and the voucher stuff that's going on down in Texas right now, where students are getting, or at least there's discussion of a bill that would allow students to have vouchers and then kind of pick their school from there. In your view, what is that going to do if it passes to high school football in Texas, and what motivated you enough to go to the Capitol and speak about that?
Well, it's more like the voucher's it's gonna take money away. It's gonna take the public funding away. Not so much the kids. We just want to stay title. Randall High School is going to be fine. A lot of the programs are going to be fine. If you take care of your business, people are going to want to play for you anyway. You take care of kids, they're going to want to keep them there. The issue is you're taking money from the budget.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to end up hurting you, because now you're going to lose teachers. Your facilities won't be as nice as they were, and you're not going to be able to support those kids like they're going to need that same support.
So when you and the staff and or the players went to the state capitol and spoke to legislators, how was it received?
Well, it was more like a record, like they're recognizing the team.
Yeah,
they're recognizing the team and
from the state championship.
Yes, sir.
Oh,
yes, sir. Yeah, so it's a good deal. But I'm on the board of the Texas High School Coach Association with and Coach Martin and Coach Glenn West. They champion that, and they really help us understand how all that's going on. You know.
Now your football team. Are you in a hurry?
No, sir.
Okay, you got about 5 more minutes. Cool. Appreciate that. Brian Randall, Texas High School football coach, 16-0, man. In the third year of a program, all right, in Texas, and there are 6 A's. Now, there are divisions within the A's, but still not to diminish 1 or 2 or 3A, but it's 5A Texas high school football. Seriously, 16-0, pulled a big upset in the championship game. And there's a newspaper down there called the Times Record. The Times Record News called it a David versus Goliath matchup. So were you guys widely considered the team, like 3 months ago, that absolutely is going to lose this game? But little did the favorite know, those 5 pebbles you had with your slingshot were pretty good.
I tell you what, we were a 21-point dog going into the game. We had everything to gain, nothing to lose.
Wait, hang on. They have betting lines on high school football games in Texas?
I wouldn't say it's a betting line.
Sure, but somebody says
it. Like people post things.
People establish lines.
Okay. Yeah,
that's how big high school football is in Texas.
Well,
yeah, metaphorically speaking.
Yes,
I got you.
Metaphorically. Yeah, thank you.
3 touchdown dog.
Yes, sir. Yeah, so, but no, the biggest thing was just getting our kids to understand they just need to be focused and play our game. We're fast. They were big. South Oak Cliff, they do an outstanding job. Coach Todd does a great job there. They're extremely well coached. They've been in the state title 4 years in a row. 4 years in a row. And that's not.
This is unbelievable.
That's tough.
But it's third year of your program, man.
Yeah, we got.
How?
No fear.
Yeah.
No fear. Not. We don't allow the kids to be scared. And the biggest thing is getting them to understand that, you know, in the weight room, I have a saying that says, what you think you become, right? Like the mind is everything. Mm-hmm. What you think, you become. And we do a lot of different mental things. It's more mental stuff than we do. We lift. And we're going to lift. We're not very big, but we're fast. Our boys are fast. Our boys are blessed with speed. And we try to get them to understand that you're representing your family, you're representing your community, you're representing your mom, your dad. Everybody comes out there to watch you. So if we go out here and let Oak Cliff beat us 54 to nothing, well, then we let the whole community down, we let the whole city down. So we put a lot on their shoulders, and the boys showed up, and we put them in space and put them in position to be successful. Have a really good coaching staff. So
is it a mantra for you that we bully the bullies?
That was a thing, yes, sir. Because we don't. I think it's our job to help people, right? So like Dad says, like you have to help people. So you see somebody in trouble, you help them out. Well, I'm not a big fan of people beating their chests and doing all that. I can't say bad words. A bunch of bad, a bunch of talking. Yeah, a lot of talking. So we're not a fan of that. So we're gonna take those words and shove them down your throat. Is what we're gonna do. And that's what my boys do. My boys, they behave in the hallway. They take care of business in school, and they help kids. So if a weaker kid's in trouble, they're going to go over there and say, hey, you stop that, leave them alone.
Amen.
So that, and we really stress that. That's why we spend so much time in the weight room.
So just a couple more for Coach Randall. So many coaches at the high school and collegiate level are deemed, say, CEOs. Okay, so like I don't know much about your squad, but say Coach Randall's the CEO. He runs the whole thing, but he has the final say. Would you say that's kind of your role, or is that important in Texas football, or do you have more of an offensive or defensive bent to you?
When I was the defensive coordinator before I became head coach. When I was at A-Leaf Taylor, I still called the defense. Okay. Now when we left A-Leaf Taylor, went to Katy, and then I picked up Coach Rambo. Rambo's my defensive coordinator now. After that first year, we kind of did it together, but this last year he done an outstanding job. We only gave up 7 points. I'm an average in 16 weeks of football. Going into that game, we had only given up 350 yards on the ground in 15 weeks of football.
Wow.
350. Now, South Oak Cliff with 333 on us.
But you got the money, and you got the crown.
We got the W. So, but no, you have to trust your guys. Yeah. Honestly, you have to trust your guys. And of course, you're going to put your input in there because you're not going to – I will not lose a football game but because I allowed one of my guys to say something or do something because I won't be able to sleep. If we're going to lose, we're going to lose. We're going to lose because of me, if that makes any sense.
Well, Ben and I doing work with the NFL, recently we were at the NFL Scouting Combine in Indianapolis, and, this isn't novel or breaking news, but really over the last 3 years, maybe 4, finding the right 3 technique, finding the right pass rushing defensive tackle has almost become like finding the right quarterback.
Yes.
It's Aaron Donald, obviously, and so on and so on. They're hard to find. What is it like at the Texas collegiate high school level when it comes to true 3 techniques, pass rushing defensive tackles?
We have a kid, Chase Sims. Chase Sims is at A&M right now. He's an early graduate. He's going to make noise. You'll be covering him. You guys are going to be covering him because he's that kind of kid. Comes from a great family. Yeah. His dad's a sheriff. Mom does something with loans. I forgot, but they have a great family nucleus there, and he's just a great kid and a hard-working kid. So we were blessed to have that kid. And right now, with all the different, the kids are pulled in so many different directions. That's the one thing that we have to do as coaches is really just kind of surround ourselves around them and pour into them and make sure that they stay on the right path. But a lot of that comes from home, and like I said earlier, having an open door policy and just. I answer the phone. Parent calls, I pick up the phone. Yeah. Because I think that's important.
So phones and social media being a constant distraction for everybody, including adults this day and age, I would imagine with Texas high school football at the 5A or whatever level, that you open Twitter, you open Instagram, you open TikTok, Snapchat, whatever you're on, I mean, players probably get overly praised and overly ripped at the high school level, correct?
Yes, sir.
So, I mean, these are 14, 15, 16, 17-year-old young men who, you talk about heads getting inflated if they don't have the right support system or getting too down on themselves where they're like, man, I just might quit this thing. I mean, you got to deal with that, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, we pop that bubble all the time. Like, if that head gets too big, we're going to pop it. I'm going to kick that stool from underneath your feet. I'll find something. And we do a thing called boot camp. And we started last week. And we actually have a section in boot camp about social media and how not to post dumb stuff and just –
yeah.
Ultimately, because once you put it out there, you can't take it back.
Right.
You can't take it back. And we tell them just don't even listen to social media because sometimes you get into it and those kids, you get in the mud you get in the mud with them because I have to struggle sometimes. I go put my phones up and say I'm not even going to read it.
I have them sometimes. People come to me for something I wrote.
Right.
Yeah.
Lastly, just curious, what did you speak about last night? Like, what do you bring up here for the Minnesota high school coaches, and what do you hope, like, when you leave, what can be enlightening to you to maybe have you bring to your program from here to make it better?
Well, I'm definitely going to bring and going to tell the Texas coaches how blessed we truly are to have a athletic period and to have the things that we have, because we truly are blessed. We talked program, we talked defense, we talked special teams. Those are our big three. Offensively, we did a great job this year, but we just my OC ended up. I had co-OCs. My OC, one of them, Brooks Hack, he went to Memorial. He got a head job. And then Coach Hill took over the program at Fulshear. He just got a head job. So in the last 2 years, I've lost 3 coaches to get in head positions, and that's a blessing. That means we're clearly doing something right. So, but that's all we really talked about the program. But listening to them, because I kind of turned into a Q&A, and they were saying they don't have that same kind of time in that sense, that they don't have, like, you don't get to work the kids out, then go to lunch, and then see them again after school. And I think that, I don't know. I think that y'all need to kind of look into that, get some athletic periods.
So Texas high school football truly still is Friday Night Lights. It's the best in the country for high school football.
I would say.
Yeah,
I would say.
What about those speedy kids from Dade County? I mean, if they were to hey, come on, why don't you bring Richmond Randall High School into Dade County and try to cover all this speed?
If they live in that neighborhood, I'm all for it.
Yes, sir.
The one thing they have, y'all have open enrollment and stuff out here. We don't have that there. Yeah. Like, you have to live in our community in order to play football for us. And I think that's a special thing as well. So I have no issue. We'll play anybody as long as you guys are in that community and you don't have open enrollment.
My man, you're terrific. That was an honor.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. God bless you and your family, and best of luck with the high school, okay?
Yes, sir. Appreciate it.
That's Brian Randall. That's a 5A champion coach from Richmond, Texas. Coached the Richmond Randall High School football team to a 16-0 record in just its third year as a program, and closed on that 3 months ago. That was fantastic. Well, Ben Gessling is the scribe, so if we have Ben Gessling here, it behooves us during an open segment to chat about Vikings football in the NFL, and we will do that around the corner on KFAN. Thank you, Coach Collins, the new defensive coordinator for the Golden Gophers football team. That chat took place about 50 minutes ago. Danny Collins got all his albums. He is the new defensive coordinator for the Golden Gophers football team, and he's been with P.J. Fleck for nearly a decade and a half. I really enjoyed that. Likewise for Chad Greenway, who started the Friday football feast with 9 to noon. Nordo out today. Kara Savage produces at FM 100.3 KFAN. Jared Wells, the executive engineer. Executive engineer, who knew? For the Minnesota Vikings radio network, is engineering the radio show here at the Doubletree Hotel adjacent to KFAN for the Minnesota Football Coaches Association clinics. And Ben Gessling from the Star Tribune was going to be on the radio show today for a couple of segments, but then this is something we do yearly. Chad Abbott, who coaches, I believe he's the offensive coordinator for St. Thomas Academy.
Yep.
He reminded yours truly that this is this week, and we're like, yeah, for sure. I mean, every single year, this just gets right down to the nuts and bolts of football and the raw nature of these coaches and the clinics and the meetings, everything. It's one of my favorite radio shows during the course of the year, and it's an honor to be here. It's great having Ben with us. But since we do have a rare open segment, if we have the scribe, it behooves us to get into some NFL and mash on some Minnesota Vikings-related conversation in truncated fashion. Now, you leave for Florida and the owners' meetings next week, right?
Yeah, Sunday morning, I believe, is wheels up to Palm Beach.
Excellent. When you go there, what do you look to accomplish?
Well, there's a few things. I mean, basically the higher-ups in the NFL are there. It's not like the Combine where everybody's there, but coaches, general managers, owners certainly are there. A lot of the VPs in the front office are there. So it's a good opportunity to see people and chat with people that you don't see all the time. And then, we'll talk to Kevin O'Connell, I think, Monday, I want to say, and then he'll do a coach's breakfast Tuesday morning. There'll be a couple of opportunities to talk with him, talk with Mark Wilf, which is not something we get to do terribly often either.
Right.
And then all of the rules that are getting voted on will happen next week. So some interesting stuff there in some of those rules proposals this year. We'll have to see how many of them pass, but there are a number of different possibilities in those rules this year that they're talking about that I think could be pretty fascinating if they do get passed.
Is the O'Connell chat of like the background variety, or is it do you like take notes and then write stories about it?
Well, he'll do some on the record stuff, and basically every coach in the NFL will be available at a breakfast one of two mornings. I think the AFC coaches all talk Monday morning, and then the NFC coaches are all Tuesday morning.
So you can sit down at Matt LaFleur's table and legitimately go, Jordan Love, your thoughts?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
You can, and whether he'll answer that question with any degree of directness is up to him. But yes, you bounce around the room. It's very fun.
Yeah.
And it's always like in a warm location. So it's one of those assignments you're like, hey, somebody's got to go to Palm Beach next week. I guess it'll be me that drew the short straw on that one.
Right, but it's more, like you said, it's more chill.
Yes.
Than the Combine,
Very
where
much so.
you don't see capologists from AFC teams .20 running down a J.W. Marriott hallway chasing some agent who he thinks just lied to him.
Yes.
It's not.
Yeah, you don't see that.
Before.
Yes, I'm aware of the occasion you're talking about.
Yes.
And
I said, AFC capologist.
Right, exactly. Nothing close to here at all. It is much more chill. Coaches will bring their families. I've seen, I think Kevin Stefanski brings his family. He took his kids. I think statute of limitations is probably up on this because it's already happened, but basically I think it was the year it was in Orlando, brought family, did a surprise trip with his kids to Disney World right after that. So it's a lot more relaxed, and people are, when they're more relaxed, are a little more free to chat and have a little more time to do it.
In anticipation of co-hosting 9 to noon today, did you happen to watch any non-football related sports last night?
I did.
If so, did anything bite you?
The Gopher hockey game certainly bit me in a certain way. But,
so you watched it till the end?
I was back and forth. I actually had some friends over in the new garage. We put in, my buddy helped me put in surround sound, so the setup is pretty good for that. So we were watching.
Is that the YouTube studio too?
Correct. The YouTube studio is there. We needed a new garage, and we've done the love it or list it thing forever. So we're like, let's just build something with an office above it and put some hangout space in there too.
Right.
So had some friends over to watch March Madness, and we were back and forth between that and the Gophers. And it seemed like every time we flipped over to the Gophers, Massachusetts scored. So it may be my fault, but flipped over to it right in time to see the tripping penalty, or that was not called.
Yeah.
And Bob Motzko was pretty hot coming off the ice for, I think, pretty justifiable reasons. But watched Alabama hit 1,000,000 threes, and watched the Texas Tech game go to overtime. So good
you
basketball.
saw that?
Saw that.
Yeah, I fell asleep. I watched the first two games very closely.
Yeah.
And they were boring. I mean, BYU kept it close for a minute. Maryland kept it close late-ish in the first half.
Yeah.
But then it's like when that, and you've seen this in football or other sports, when that proverbial or metaphorical balloon pops off like a super emotional victory, like they had against Colorado State. When it pops, man, hide the women and children. Because when they lost their energy last night, and Florida's good, those first two games were kind of boring. But Texas Tech into Arkansas, that was good, wasn't it?
Great game.
Really?
Yeah, it was almost went to double overtime.
Wow.
It was I think a shot off the back iron that would have sent that thing to double OT. But yeah, it was back and forth. It was one of the better games of the tournament in a year where we haven't had a lot of great games.
Correct. And there's more tonight, and we will be following that closely for next week, 9 to noon. Some more football with Ben Gessling when 9 to noon continues from the Doubletree Hotel and the Minnesota Football Coaches Association Clinics on KFAN. What did you think of Kwesi's press conference?
Well, There were two topics that dominated. We didn't do a ton of free agency talk, but I thought it was actually fairly interesting to hear some of the thought process in what went into the Rodgers conversations, and just kind of to hear some of his mindset on contract discussions, because there's been a lot of talk about that. And he was as honest as he always is at those things, and I'm sure they would have wanted to talk a little more free agency than we ended up doing, but we'll hear from Kevin O'Connell on some of those fronts next week as well. So the two topics, obviously, that dominated have gotten a lot of attention throughout the offseason, but it was interesting to get a little more context on those things.
I really enjoyed hearing him talk about Jordan Mason.
Yeah.
I just think it's cool when people share, like, hey, I was in San Francisco.
Yeah.
I know how they analyze running backs.
Right.
I know what they do with running backs. So, that inherently is going to make me either 10 of 10 want one.
Yeah.
Or 10 of 10 not want one.
Right.
So if I get a chance to chat with Kwesi next week, and maybe this was asked and I missed, but I'm still with this Mason deal.
Yeah.
I still cannot see it any other way than the 49ers did the Vikings a solid.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, it's Kwesi worked with that team, so he's comfortable with John Lynch and everybody, and they're comfortable with him. Okay, now, they did get a 2026 sixth.
Yep.
And they did move up. How many spots? 20?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, it was not significant.
Yeah.
But then I'm thinking about that, and I'm like, well, you know this. I mean, we know that there are spots in drafts where teams are so particular with their analytics. They're like, all right, pick 120. So from 105 to 132, we really 85% believe there will be 6 edge rushers, and we'll take any one of them.
So we can move around.
But we got to be there. We can't be a 180.
Right.
So, okay.
There's a cliff.
Right. But that is a high risk, high reward way to play it when you're getting rounds 3 and beyond. But Mason, again, this is not to make him sound like a cross between Roger Craig and Tom Rathman, but he knows how to play the game, and just finding bruising backs who know how to play the game, and you can plug in for a couple of games and give it to him 25 a game. They're not readily available. And I left the press conference, and he talked about Bobby Turner, the running backs coach for the 49ers.
Right.
And Kwesi's not a best or worst ever kind of guy.
Yep.
And when he said Bobby Turner may be the best running back coach in the history of the NFL, I mean, I immediately went to the bio machine to see, I haven't even heard the name, and I can see what he's saying here. But like the Jordan Mason, has there been any opinion change by you about how that thing worked out?
Well, I was the one that asked the question about Mason at the end of the press conference, so it was interesting to me to hear his thought process for how they'll use him. It made me feel like there is a very clear purpose for him here and a very clear need that he's filling. So at the time, I thought this makes a lot of sense if you get this guy in as a complement to Aaron Jones. But what Kwesi talked about was the 4-minute offense is something they needed to improve. And we saw a lot of games last season that you're saying, everybody talks about the close victories. Like, why is this so close? One of the reasons for that is if they're up 7 points, or say it's 6 points with 4 minutes left, 3:20 left, whatever it is, they weren't as good as they could have been at getting a couple of first downs, bleeding clock, ending games. And the other piece of it is in the red zone. So many times we saw they were not able to run the ball terribly well, whether it's a goal-to-go situation, a 3rd and 1, where it's, I need a tough yard, and everybody knows it. Do we have a running back that can just kind of put his head down and get that yard? Kwesi talked a lot with Mason about he can be that 4-minute type back, can be the closer probably in some of these games where the defense doesn't have to go back on the field because you're able to bleed the clock. That saves some snaps for defensive players like Harrison Smith that is coming back for year 14 and keeps everybody a little bit fresher too. So I think they see a very specific role for him, and it continues to be this shift we've seen in the running game where, Kevin O'Connell talks about play style, which is basically shorthand for we want to be able to punch people in the mouth sometimes. And Jordan Mason, I think, is the type of back that gives them a little more ability to do that.
Why do you think Harrison is returning?
I think that I think a lot of it towards the end of the season, it was how good is he going to feel? I mean, he was playing through some things, as a lot of guys are, but I think that was factoring into his thinking of, do I want to come back and do this again? So you have to start with, do I feel like my body is able to do it? And I think for him, it was getting away from it, having a little bit of time to say, yes, I can go back for another year. But I think a lot of it for him, and I've heard him talk about this, and I've heard players that have retired talk about this, like play as long as you can, because once you leave, the door does not swing back open for most guys. I mean, there's the occasional quarterback that can do it, but a safety's probably not doing that. So I think on some levels he still enjoys a lot of the players in that locker room. We saw how emotional he was after that Rams game, talking about Josh Metellus, talking about Cam Bynum, some of the guys that he's played with and has been able to mentor. It's that. I mean, Bynum's gone, but he gets to work with Metellus again. He gets to work with Theo Jackson. He gets to kind of be the guy in that room. And then I think playing for Brian Flores is something that really has, we talked about with Chad Greenway the first hour, has rejuvenated Harrison in a lot of ways to get back to playing that role that he first played with Mike Zimmer. I think if I'm still having fun with that and I still feel good, why not give it one more?
All right. This is Ben Gessling, by the way, familiar voice, Tuesdays 9 to noon, Fridays with a Barrero. And he has been the co-host of this radio show, the Friday Football Feast, today from the Doubletree Hotel, adjacent to KFAN Hotel. We're in the atrium for the Minnesota Football Coaches Association Clinics. We do this show yearly. It's absolutely one of my favorites, and it's great that Ben came by to co-host the entire show. But with the break from some high school and or college football conversation, you just said something that triggered me to bring up Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah.
Now Ben was the first that started going with publicly, hey, Ryan Tannehill could be a veteran quarterback option here with everybody focusing on Flacco and things like that. And I was like, wow, that's right, Ryan Tannehill, next level Tanny. I hadn't even thought of that name. You just said it's very difficult, like for Harrison Smith. You said maybe except for some quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I'm glad you said that. But like Harrison recognizes, Hitman is like, if I leave, I ain't getting back.
No.
Well, okay, Tannehill's been gone for a year.
Yeah.
So if the Vikings like him as a veteran backup, how much of a concern do you think it would be that he's been away from it for a year?
There's probably a little bit of concern with that because you want to see, is he still able to spin it? Is he still physically where you need him to be? But the quarterback position is something that it's just interesting to watch the progression, because we have the front end of this thing where you get guys like Sam Darnold. Hey, he can't play. He's a rookie. Things are moving too fast. He's overwhelmed. Maybe the system around him isn't very good. But so much of it, I mean, I've heard Josh McCown talk about this a ton, and he knows it because he played 17 years in the league. You're better at 35 as a quarterback in every other facet than you are at 25 because you've just seen so much. You've seen every blitz. You've seen every pressure package. You've seen every coverage. I mean, Kirk Cousins would talk about this a lot because he heard Tom Brady say it. I'm better in every facet of the game other than physically because Father Time is undefeated, and we all lose a little bit of strength and flexibility and speed as we get older. But if you can find ways to slow that deterioration at the same time that your intellect for the game is higher than it's ever been, you probably can elongate your career. And I think that's where a guy like Tannehill, where he has seen everything, do you want him to be the guy all year? No, probably not. But it's another guy that will know how to beat coverages, will know how to play, or how to run an offense, can be a resource for J.J. McCarthy, too, because that's the other thing with number two quarterbacks, or whatever we want to call these quarterbacks. They're not putting labels on them yet, but you want a guy in your room to be able to support everyone else there. If J.J. McCarthy's the starter, you want whoever else is in that room to say, part of my job is to make sure that this guy has everything he needs to succeed on Sunday.
The Sean Mannion factor.
Correct. That is why Sean Mannion was around,
right,
in a lot of ways, because he was great for Kirk Cousins in that room. So that is part of the fit here as well, and I think that's part of the reason Tannehill's name comes up. Shares an agent with J.J. McCarthy. I think there's a relationship there already, too.
Well stated. That's Ben Gessling. I'm Paul Allen. Our final guest today is Minnesota high school football immortality. His name is Ron Stolsky, and he'll join us next.